Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla. Welcoming back to another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And today I think it was pretty good. We're getting out later than I thought, so we actually may have some time to tweak the settings. I'm kind of hopeful to do that. I mean, either way though, no, I do kind of want to tweak them pretty fairly badly. So yeah, I do want to tweak. I do want to get those settings tweaked. But what I will say is that either way, I can use it as time, at least time to relax. So that's always a similarly nice option, regardless of what I end up doing for myself. I keep doing the calculation for my hours a little bit long, so it ends up being longer than it should be. I'm also noticing that my breathing is coming up on the mic, which I'm not really a huge fan of, and I believe that just has to do with the positioning. But it's also, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not a huge fan of it, but at the same time, it kind of adds to the atmosphere. I'm not entirely sure. It is what it is. You know, there's not really too much else to say about it. Something I thought was interesting today, as we've talked recently about potentially shattering the veil, and as we get closer and closer along that timeline, because of course someday I probably am just going to end up shattering the veil. You know, it's not like the veil can stay as it is forever. There's no way that that's going to end up being the case. You know, I don't think the veil will be veiled forever. I just kind of refuse to believe that. But what I do know about the veil, no. What I know in general is I want to try to work on presenting things in a little bit more of a silly way. I think I do it at times. I do it at times when I'm in a good mood, but the way I've been on this show, it's been very dreary. It's been pretty dreary and grouchy and grumpy. And I've kind of been going through just that kind of a phase in my life where it's like, I don't really know that anything clearly bad happened. You know, like it wasn't like any particular thing was like, oh, this is bad. Well, you know, it is bad, me doing all those filler words like those likes and stuff. That's definitely what's bad. Besides that, I'm not sure. What am I even getting at? I don't even know what I'm getting at. Because I do it a lot of times. It's probably been recorded, probably more on the older episodes that I've dealt with. I think it's been more on the older ones, not so much the newer ones. And yeah, it's just something I've kind of noticed in general, that I tend to be pretty stern, and in general, it's just a general vibe that I feel. I almost feel like a lot of the times they're not serious enough, and I almost feel like I really have to try to be the direction in their life, if that makes any sense. And it's not really a great feeling, and I guess maybe in terms of my destiny or my calling, I should have probably detected that as a thing for myself, like that should have been intuitively a sign. I think it should have been intuitively a sign or some kind of evidence of something, that something was going on, and I feel like I'm doing a terrible job. I have what I'm thinking in my head, but the way the words are coming out is not super great, which flies in the face of what I typically pride myself on. I typically pride myself on my ability to articulate things, and that's typically the case. But I believe, I don't know, I felt a little bit like, I felt a little bit jittery or preoccupied today. I'm not entirely sure why. It's a good energy. It's not a bad energy, but I'm not sure how conducive it is for what I'm doing. I also think the noise gate potentially was blocking out some of the breathing noise. So again, it had its cons. It was a little bit too strict. I wanted it to be more natural. But then now I made it too weak, and now we're really getting a lot of excess sound in. So I want to make it a little bit stricter. I think it was a little bit too extreme and too severe of an adjustment, and I want to try to tweak it, make it a little bit more aggressive. So I'm pretty excited that I'm actually getting out pretty early because, again, I actually might have enough time to quickly do the settings. I'm not sure. It all depends, but also the way things are going, I had amazing light luck, and everything just seems to be going swimmingly as of now. So I think we're going to be on a very good trajectory. Things are seeming good. Like I might actually have time to tweak the settings, which I actually think the settings are very close to being tweaked ideally. It's very nice. It's extremely nice. I'm so happy with the setup. Already I feel like I'm getting more used to it. Let's rewind a bit. Let's try to finish articulating what I was talking about. Quick rewind. Well, now I'm... and then I feel sluggish to actually deliver on that quick rewind. I said quick rewind, and then I wanted to hit it, and I didn't hit it. I didn't hit the button, didn't actually initiate the rewind that I just put out there. All I'm getting chopped up on is how disappointed I was in myself for not being able to say the words I wanted to say. That's just what my mind's remembering. That's what my mind's fixated on right now. It's not even what I was talking about prior to that, which was the actual good conversation that I was pretty interested in talking about. You just can't win. You just can't win. I think I've talked about this before in regards to intellect, but I think this conundrum, I'm curious to mention it just as a rule of thumb. Perfectionism, feeling guilty about things, feeling like somebody isn't good enough. These are all feelings that are very difficult. They're not comfortable feelings. They're not good feelings. And yet, the result is typically good results. Usually, if somebody feels like they're not good enough, they're actually going to end up doing more and better than somebody who thinks they are. If somebody thinks they're good enough, they're not really going to put too much effort into trying to communicate better with another person, trying to do nice things or favors for somebody to please them. If somebody thinks they're good enough, then that's it. Why do they have anything to do? Why do they have anything to work on? They have nothing to improve on, which is why, really, regardless of how intelligent I become, I really don't ever want to think I'm all that smart, because if I do that, it's just, then that's it, right? Well, if I'm already smart, then what do I need to learn? So if I always try to be like careful about that, because in some ways you have to be accurate. You have to say, my brain, I process a lot of information. I know a lot of information. Some of my info is probably biased, but a lot of it is pretty thorough. But I don't want to give myself too much credit, because I see this conundrum. It's painful for us to feel like we're not good enough. It's painful when we feel guilty, even when we shouldn't necessarily. But what do these behaviors lead to? If I feel guilty about my environmental impact, for example, and then as a result of that, I try to live more efficiently and live as a better person, I think the argument is pretty clear that this is a belief, this is a guilt, this is a concern that has a positive outcome. Even if it creates stress for the self, in terms of its effect and its impact on the greater good, it's pretty profound. And I think there's a lot of situations like that. I think I've talked about this too, but I maybe articulated it a different way, where I think it's very popular for people to think that, oh, I can't fix it. I can't control everything. I can't fix this. I can't do anything about that. So just don't worry about it. But the thing is, worry, as I said, it produces a lot of good things. It really, when we feel bad, that's really what makes us good. I mean, if somebody feels as though they're a good person, I feel like the chance that they are is lower, because if you're going to have the mind to think that you're a good person, then you're not going to be active in working on that. I've probably mentioned this concept before too. And it kind of works with all things. It's that saying, you can't have your cake and eat it too. No, that doesn't line up. You can't. I'm trying to think of why did I think that made sense? I'm trying to think. So why can't you can't have your cake and eat it too? No, it kind of, I think it does. I think it does, because it's basically saying, no, I guess it's like if you inverted it. No, it's actually, I can kind of make it work, I think. So if you're not smart and you don't admit you're smart, it's like you have a cake that you can't eat. You're working on yourself, you're trying to be better, you're trying to be smarter, in the same sense as when you have a nice delicious cake out on the table, it's kind of annoying to not just eat it. Like, you kind of just want to eat it. You don't want to have to sit around, nobody's around, and you're just looking at this nice delicious cake. There's no reason why you're not going to want to eat it. There's absolutely no reason for that. And so it changes things, doesn't it? Doesn't it change things when we have that right in front of us? But if you eat the cake, if you become the cake, if you start to attribute the cake's positive qualities to yourself, in this case, it's accepting that you are smart, it's absorbing that into your ego while you've consumed the cake, and now you have an empty plate, and your learning stops. It's essentially that riddle is, you never stop learning. But if you think you've stopped learning and you don't, and your mind is not trying to soak anything up, then maybe you have. Maybe you are limiting yourself. I remember when I was a teenager, I came up with a saying, something like, you've heard it said before, you never stop learning, you learn something new every day, but one day you will see learning stop. And I think there actually could be some merit to that if you get into possibly the mystical nature of reality, where past a certain point, most of your learning is done. You stop learning, there's not much going on anymore, and everything's fine. You figured yourself out, and you understand the nature of reality, why things are the way they are. And that's that. There's just not too much else that ever needs to be said or will be said. But others learn. And in a way, you can argue for the conduciveness of a growing mind, what's more valuable? Do you want to be the person that is God, is all-knowing, or is it fun to not know stuff? Is it fun to learn? I think most humans would agree with the latter, and in my experience, they do. I don't think people like to know too much. In my case, it's another conundrum. I love to learn, but what would I do if I knew everything? I'm not sure. You'd never really know everything, but in a hypothetical, that's a pet peeve of mine. Just as a side note, I ask someone a hypothetical, and then they just don't answer it because they say, oh, well, that wouldn't happen. Yeah, I know it wouldn't happen. That's why I'm saying hypothetically if it did happen. So it's actually rude. It's actually kind of like a sassy, bratty comment, but I don't even think people understand that when they do it. But anyways, it's this conundrum because this is what I like to do. I like to learn. I like to optimize. I like to continue to grow and improve and push. And most people are not like that. Most people don't care about that at all. Everybody just kind of likes to wallow in whoever they are, whatever they are. And there's a lot of these chill kind of mindsets about, oh, I like to learn life as I go. And like everybody loves it. Everyone's all like, yeah, like that's such a cool vibe. I just do what I can. Yeah, like I just experience each moment as it comes. Yeah. I don't know this or that, but I'm living life and I just roll with it. Like there's this vibe, and I don't know. It to me, it's I just don't know. Because I'm trying to think of how to word this, because I want to work on my softening of things, but I've already went too far with the mockery or the judgment. I mean, I can't hate this mindset. It's a very common mindset. It's a commonly held mindset. It's one of those ones, though, that I think can be very dark very easily. when you get into the potential side effects of not trying to optimize or not being very aware of optimizations that you can do as a human, being more of a burden to others, harming other people as a result of your own lack of interest in the ideal. I think as time goes on, we're exiting the age of freedom, as I like to call it. We're exiting the age of autonomy. We're going to see firsthand pretty strict standards applied to humans, and we're going to be faced with a lot of resource crises, and it's going to start to matter. There's not going to be time for freedom. There already isn't. I've talked about it before. We're already having this crazy system where nobody's accountable for anything, and well, what can you do? I mean, people would they'd sooner just want to destroy themselves, and not even like, I don't know. It's like at a certain point, a lot of this stuff is just a soul and what a soul decides to do. And if people want to take their beliefs to the grave, well, that's going to be their legacy. I'm trying to think of a way to explain this in a softer way, because I wanted to try to work on softening some of my words, because I think they're just like too strong at times, and I'm just not figuring it out. Like this is not something it's not that easy to joke about. There's a lot of existential crises. There's a lot of existential problems right around the corner. We're going to have to move past the age of autonomy, the age of limitless growth. Well, it's not really growth. I guess it was uncalculated growth. We have to move past the era of we can just do anything and then everything's fine. Because we can tell now it's not working. And again, a lot of resource or existential crises will come up. I guess that would be a good skill, though, to be able to turn that into some kind of humor or spectacle, because it's a topic that the delivery of it's so severe. Like it's existential. And for a lot of people, that's just too much anyway. So if I could figure out a way to deliver it in a soft or a humorous style or format, that would actually convey a good message. And I think I'm sure there's speakers that have before. I'm just not immediately familiar with them, but there's plenty of comedians who they're actually talking about very real concepts and topics, but their presentation is obviously in a very palatable way to a lot of people. And I guess that is the nature of the world, because it's this transmutation that has to occur. I always had this awareness and understanding that I think is fundamentally true, that at the end of the day, people do spend way too much time fixated on something being funny or something being entertaining. And if it's not, they just can't listen to it. They don't listen to it. They don't care about it. But then if something's funny, they're all good. And I think the main thing that upsets me about it is when you look at the problems we face as humanity and how nobody's really doing anything to solve any of these existential big problems. It's stressful, and it's, maybe instead of cracking jokes, we could be casually talking about something serious. But I think that, sadly, it's just not really the right way to look at things, because I don't think it's the right way to look at things. We're in this world, and in this world you have to adhere to certain precepts, certain ideas, certain systems, and humor is a huge part of our interactive systems. It's basically impossible for any of this stuff to I'm not going to be able to get through. I mean, there's always people who are into listening, but I don't know if that's as special. I obviously can speak seriously. There's nothing wrong with that. And in terms of my speaking in a sillier, more fun way, it's typically only unlocked when another person is around. I can activate that style. And when I'm by myself, I did kind of in the beginning of Car Rides with Schla have some funnier moments, or I think I was overall a little bit more cheerful. And, you know, now I just wonder. Because it's a part of me. It is who I am. I'm not all stern and serious all the time. There's absolutely these two distinct sides to me. And for some reason, somewhere along the way, this show, this idea, this being in the car, it's just become, I don't know what it's become, honestly. It just became kind of a mopier vibe. The excitement, I think, at first was, I guess there really was like this pressure and this belief that I really, things were going to turn up. And then they obviously never did turn up. And that's kind of a shame. And then the whole tone kind of changed, where now it became more like a diary or something along those lines. It wasn't, I don't really see it as a show necessarily anymore. I think deep down, my perception of it and what I've done and what I'm planning on, it's changed. I never even think about the original vision, which the original vision was this kind of this like sort of coherent thing going on that was pretty positive or pretty good. You know, for people to have an outlet for serious conversation on a regular basis, and people could comment things and I'd respond to it. You know, that's really what the concept and the whole premise of this was supposed to be from the start. And that piece of the puzzle never happened. And I guess it's possible that I wasn't ready back then. Whoa, that was pretty dangerous. Oh my gosh, because there's like a car right in the middle of the street without its lights on. That was really stressful. Wow. It was like, I mean, the road doesn't really have a shoulder. And I'm worried about, you know, like the person, because I had to stop kind of suddenly because it's like a darker colored car too. It was pretty much just right in the street. Wow, yeah, that's scary. And, you know, I just hope, obviously, the person behind me noticed in time to stop, but I didn't see it myself right away. So I kind of put the brakes on a little bit last second, and I'm thinking, man, like, is the person behind me going to get it? I also have to be preparing to veer off across the 2 yellow lines because that's the only way I'd get past the car. I mean, fortunately, the timing was good, but yeah, I mean, I guess something like that can happen, but that really was not, that was extremely dangerous. That was just extremely dangerous. I don't know. I'm just glad that I I noticed that. That really scary stuff. I don't know how that couldn't have been. I mean, maybe it legitimately just stopped working right then and there, but that still seems very strange to me that they couldn't have at least tried to just get it to the side a little bit more than that. I mean, I don't know. That it just seems really, as I wasn't paying too much attention to the surroundings. I mean, maybe they genuinely couldn't. I'm not sure. But that was totally threw me off. But yeah, I mean, this show, this spectacle, it hasn't been as spectacular as I think it could have or should have ended up. And part of it's been personal kind of things. I didn't really live up to who I wanted to be in regards to this conflict between really wanting to be responsible, save money, but then at the same time having a lot of things that I'm interested in. And, you know, all that's coming with that. I don't know. It's just been a lot. 2025 was really, I don't know, kind of like a crazier year. And I'm hoping that there's more of a calm now that is pulled through. It seems like that's the case. It seems like there's more of a calm now. Things have been a little bit nicer, more stable. So I can't really complain there, but, you know, I don't know. A lot of growth, too. Definitely a lot of growth in 2025, because now that we're getting past, like, where it's really been a year since 2025, because up until now, yeah, I mean, it's 2026, but it was just January of 2026. But now we're getting to March, which is really, I think, when my 2025 really started. I didn't really feel like, I felt like a similar person until around February or March. And that's kind of where I see that era start and end. Whereas, for me, like, what I see is kind of like vibes 2025. It was more like the 10-month stretch of probably like February or March to December. And then, I mean, even now, I'm going to be honest, like 2026, I don't really feel like has clearly started until maybe February. Because I feel like January was still, it's still kind of the 2025 vibes. I mean, it's kind of clearing up, but it's not, I don't know if this makes sense, but I feel like it should. It's basically just this explanation about, even if the year cuts off at January, I think there can be overlap or like thematic spillover or lingering. Really, you know, the year is not what necessarily is going to line up with what was like thematically a 12-month period. What was the most thematically, and it really can't always be 12 months exactly. I think the eras and the themes and the phases, some can be 8 months, you know, and I might think in my mind that that's really what, to me, signifies 2025. Even if on the calendar it was 2025, for myself, I feel like 2024 lingered a bit into 2025. I don't even think things really kicked off And there was even like a breaker period. There was like a fast period in 2025 where I feel like it was 2026, but then we went back to 2025. And then I could be saying all this and maybe 2026 isn't going to work out how I thought it was. So everything could end up changing. There's so many different ways to look at it, but I don't know. To me, that's just how I feel. I feel like what the calendar says and how my heart feels are two different things. That's how I feel. I think that, I don't know, to me that should make sense coherently. I don't really think that's all that crazy of a concept to me, but I guess there could be different opinions on that subject. Suppose that is very possible. All right, well, it has been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So, see you schla.